bringing you the latest news from Friendship Athletics. This is the Tiger Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Hello and good Wednesday night. It is time for the High School Fan Zone on 100.7 FM. I am Randy Rosetta. We're going to kick it off with the Tiger Fan Zone as usual on Wednesday night. Got Jay Northcutt to my far left. If you're watching on TV, we're going to be joined by Maverick Allen, who is cornerback, receiver. What else does he do?
Whatever you need him to do. Utility guy. Yeah. Field. Captain. Yeah.
Does a little bit of everything.
He does.
And he's fun to watch. I don't know if I mentioned this to you the other day, Jay, but that touchdown he scored the other day, he split those defenders. Like, if you blinked at the wrong time, you were going to miss him getting in. We're going to talk a little bit more about the defense you guys did that against, but that doesn't usually happen to Lubbock Cooper guys.
No, and you know, when Mav gets ahead of steam, he's going and he gets there quick. You know, I think that's one thing that if you watch him on film is when he gets the ball in his hands, it only takes him 2 or 3 steps and he's moving pretty fast.
Yeah, there was no catching him on that. He
can run a little bit.
Like something like a cartoon almost. Well, I mentioned Lubbock Cooper. Friendship went down to Woodrow Road and won a. I was trying to decide if I wanted to call it a thriller. For you guys, I'm sure it was a thrilling result. It had elements almost. It started out, didn't look like there was going to be any thriller to it at all. You guys jumped up 28-0. Friendship won 51-42, and I think I put this in my story. It didn't start out looking like a Friendship Cooper game, but it sure looked like one at the end.
Well, it did, and I was really proud of how our team finished the game. I was really excited about the first half that we played, but we've played so many close games, Randy, with Cooper over the last, 8 years, really, especially, 5 out of the last 6 games, that we figured that we needed to keep this one close. That way people would want to continue to come out and watch, so that I think that was part of it, maybe.
I was teasing you the other day. That was almost a blowout, 9-point win. I mean, you were breathing pretty easy at the end, right?
Well, once that clock finally ticked down, I was able to relax a little bit, but never comfortable in that game. Message at halftime was, hey, this is, a team that is going to come out fighting. They don't feel like they're out of the fight. Had some things go their way right before half, and came out and then the second half and did exactly that and cashed in on a few other mistakes, that we made and clawed their way back in it. And luckily our guys are pretty resilient, and we held them off and got the win.
When we talked the other day, though, I told you what struck me is that you guys didn't make any just egregious mistakes to let them back in. They made plays, which kind of like what you said. They recovered the onside kick. They got the fumble. They did some things that good teams are going to do. If they're going to come back, they had to do them, and they did them, and they capitalized on them. And then what I liked about what you guys did was you finished. Defensively, you finished the way that you started. Here comes Mr. Everything here. Were you out there changing coach's oil or something, Maverick? You do everything else, so.
No, I just ended up going to the wrong place on accident. I put it into my phone and just took me to the wrong place.
You went to 98th Street, didn't
That's
you?
Exactly what I did, yep.
Yes, Mr. Everything might need to be his new nickname. We call him the Iron Man, but maybe it's Mr. Everything.
I'm glad to give nicknames. Jackson Austin, that plays for Lubbock Cooper, I nicknamed him the Matrix a few years ago. I'm trying to think what year that was. His freshman or sophomore year, they played Tascosa, and this was right after you guys had lost Tascosa in your district. You didn't have to worry about them anymore, and they went up there.
We weren't sad to see them go either.
I totally understand. Jackson Austin, you may have seen these last couple of years. He went to make a cut. A Tascosa guy came to tackle him, and all of a sudden it was a little bit like Maverick, like I was talking about. He ducked under him, and he was 5 yards downfield. So how you guys do that, Coach and I, we did.
It's coaching. It's all coaching.
There you go.
All coaching.
I don't know if we could have done that back in our day, Jay.
Well, I'd like to think I could, if I was young again.
Would Steve Parr have allowed that, though, or would he said, stick your nose down and go?
Well, if you got tackled, you'd have been wrong.
There you go.
But if you didn't, you'd have been right.
Maverick, how are you doing?
Doing good. I'm good, sir. How are you?
driven around Lubbock a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But if it makes you feel better, you're not the first person, or will you be the last person that happens to? I should have made sure Coach knew you, let you know we were.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
That's and you will not be the last, unfortunately. We were talking a little bit about your game against Lubbock Cooper. Started out not looking much like a Lubbock Cooper friendship game, but it ended up like that. We're going to talk a lot more about it and then what's coming up. But as you're playing, as you're out there on the field, can you kind of feel the intensity starting to creep up a little bit more after you guys got ahead of them? Could you kind of sense they were not done fighting yet?
Yeah, they're a good fighting team. They've always been like that. They're coached like us. Never back down, always keep fighting. And so obviously our halftime talk was to keep going. And we knew they were going to come out at halftime. And they came out and they had a couple of adjustments, and they kind of hit us in the face. But all that matters is that we kept fighting and we came up with big stops to end the game.
I don't want to cut you short here, so we're going to bring it back when we come after the break about the way you guys finished defensively, because you kind of like a boxer. You kind of took some blows and got back up and finished, especially those last two series. 51-42, you guys are now 3-1, a play or two away from being undefeated. And you're heading into this week, you go to Midland Christian, 7 p.m. Friday. That game will be on Double T 97.3 FM, pregame at 6:30 with Keith Patrick and the guys on the Friendship Network. This is a good final warm-up before you guys get into district. I know people are going to look at it and think that Midland Christian's a smaller school, but we talked, Jay. That's not a typical small tap school. That's a school that gets kids from a pretty good talent pool there in Midland.
Well, they really do, and I think this is going to be a big game for them. I know we would be a big feather in their cap if they could knock us off, and they're going to be highly motivated. Coach Cunningham does a good job, and so we're expecting a big challenge.
And you said he's got a few rings around the coaching tree. He's been around for a while.
He does, and has some state championships as well.
There you go. That's what matters, is coaches getting guys ready to fight hard. So we'll come back and talk more about Friendship against Midland Christian. We're going to talk more about Lubbock Cooper and that game and how it played out first when we come back on the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 FM.
Breaking down Friendship sports. This is the Tigers Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 FM. I'm Randy Rosetta. I'm joined tonight for the Tiger Fan Zone, if you're watching on TV, to my far left by Jay Northcutt. I'm going to do it again. 7th year coach?
Eighth.
Yes, sir. I got to get you in softly. See, with Chip, it's easy to remember because his first game was the first year of my site, so I can. Mm-hmm. You were here for a few years.
I'm not been around a while, yeah.
I know you those first couple of years.
I looked a lot younger, Randy.
I was going to say
8 years ago.
They did well. Hey, despite being married to a Plainview girl, I've started to show some age as well.
Just a little bit like me, yeah.
And by Maverick Allen, cornerback, safety, basketball guard. What do you do in the spring?
Spring is just workouts and making sure I get bigger and faster and stronger for the football season.
That's worked. So that hard work has paid off.
He could probably play some safety if we ask him to, but he's a dang sure a good corner and receiver.
Did you ever play? I think I've asked you before. Were you ever a baseball guy or a track guy?
No. I ran track this year, but I was never a baseball guy.
Okay. Plainview's it's not always been a huge baseball town, has it?
No. It's kind of grown over the years, or at least whenever I was down there, it was growing, but I've never really played it.
So we won't stray too far here, but I'm sitting here with two Plainview guys. I'm married to a Plainview girl, so we can talk Plainview all we want, but we're going to talk about Lubbock Cooper instead. I don't think I said this to you the other day, Jay, but I've seen you guys play a lot of football in the 6 years that I've had the site. Chip Darden, 6 years. I don't know that I've seen your offense that efficient for 7 drives in a row like you were. And not just that efficient, but against that good of a defense. And I know you went back to watch the video. Am I correct that you guys were pretty good there for that entire first half and then the first 2 drives after halftime? I didn't see a whole lot of flaws in what you guys were doing offensively.
No, we really had a really good night on offense, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that. And one, I think, is just the prep that the guys put in this year and then over the years to get to this point. This is a very special group. And then another thing that I think is really paying big dividends for this group is, since they do have the experience that they have, even when a play doesn't end up working out exactly like you might have drawn it up or talked about, these guys have gotten so many reps, at just doing the things that we do that they find a way to make it work. I can think of one play in particular that Maverick made on a vertical route that originally really wasn't there, but Holden moved over to his left. Mav kept running. They came out of coverage, and then he made the long throw to Mav, during that game. And so just the little things like that, making the plays that aren't average, I guess is one way to say it. I think that's what those guys have really been able to capitalize on this year.
I'm doing the math in my head, and Maverick, you could help me with this. COVID year, were you an 8th grader or a freshman?
I was an 8th grader.
So you guys came back from COVID, and it's been interesting for the last 4 years to watch how different programs have adjusted and pretty much rebuilt from that. You guys are a pretty good example of guys who committed to, we lost this year of basically our lives. Now we're going to make sure we make the best of things. Is that kind of what this group of seniors that has done, like Coach was talking about?
Yes, sir. I've noticed that this group, they come in every day with the mentality to get 1% better. And it even started in the spring, that every day in spring ball and in the summer that everybody would come in every day with the highest of the energy and just make sure we make each other better and get better.
And I'm also trying to do my math here. Was 20 the season where you ended up not going to the playoffs with the snafu at San Angelo, or was that the next year?
That was 2021.
Okay, so it was the next year when these guys would have been freshmen.
Yes, sir.
And that you guys had nothing to do with that weird situation, but is that something that has also kind of motivated you to see something kind of get taken away from guys that you looked up to and understand you have to kind of take advantage of everything you get?
We had a relationship with a lot of those older guys and those seniors because of Holden Phillips. His older brother Gavin was on that team, so we built relationships with those guys. So seeing them kind of disappointed in that game being taken away from them kind of motivated us to be better and not put ourselves in that situation and to kind of just go into playoffs and win out in district and win that district championship.
There's been a lot of Phillips.
There has been a lot of Phillips.
They've all been coached by Jay Northcutt. We're going to talk about baby brother when we come back, because he's different than you guys have had at quarterback the last couple. You guys have been so good at quarterback, but he's got a little bit of a different wrinkle to him. So we'll talk more about Holden Phillips and friendship when we come back on the Tiger Fan Zone on 100.7 FM. I'm Randy Rosetta, and we'll be right back.
Bringing you the latest news from Friendship Athletics. This is the Tiger Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the Tiger Fan Zone. One more segment this week with Jay Northcutt, the football coach, and Maverick Allen, the football player who does a little bit of everything. Now, I don't want you to give any secrets away. This may depend on what you decide to do. Are you still going to be a basketball guy this year?
Yes, sir. I'll play basketball.
I know some guys have to make that decision. I'm going to guess if Paul Page is listening, you just made him smile a little bit.
I hope so.
He likes to have athletes. What are basketball practices like compared to Coach Northcutt's practices?
Basketball practices, compared to them, they're about the same. You have to have the energy every day to bring. If not, you're obviously going to make the coaches kind of mad and angry. So as long as you bring the energy every day, you just know you're going to have a good practice.
So I'm trying to think of – I can think of two different coaches with as opposite personalities as those two guys, Seth Parr and Gary Hicks, when they were at Coronado. But you got now, from what I know Coach fairly well, he's fairly laid back. Now at practice he may be a little bit, but I know from watching Paul Page, there ain't no laid back to Paul Page whatsoever.
No. In practice and game, he's always on our tail, just making sure we're going 100% all the time. Or if we do something wrong, we're on the line automatically.
At some point, they need to take his caffeine away, because he is always. Now, I'll give Jay a chance to describe his coaching
Matt
style.
gave a very diplomatic answer. I would imagine Coach Page's practices are pretty tough.
You've been a football guy all your life. When I covered LSU, I remember Marcus Spears, that's on ESPN all the time, came to LSU to play football for Nick Saban, and then thought he was going to try to play basketball as well. He made it through 2 practices and was like, I ain't doing this.
It's a different type
different
of
kind of energy.
basketball.
Yeah, especially coming from a football season into basketball. They're young. They can do a lot more stuff than
You got to keep in mind, Randy, you're talking to a guy that runs 8 miles in a game. He sprints 8 miles.
That's incredible.
And how do we know that? Because he wears a GPS sensor that tells us. So it's pretty official.
Yeah. When's the last time you walked or ran 8 miles on purpose?
I would be just guessing if I was to tell you, Randy. I don't know.
So Coach knows this. I went on a little bit of a health kick the last year, and I go on my daily walks, and then my 16-year-old daughter will come home from whatever she's doing and say, hey, you want to go for a walk? And I'll be like, oh, sure.
Yeah, you better go.
Dads can't tell daughters no. It's National Daughters Day. Happy National Daughters Day, Mallory and Darby. Can't tell them no.
Addison Brooke, happy Daughters Day.
You can't tell them no. So there was a couple times this summer when I got back and I'd walked 6 or 7 miles, and I was like, I can't remember, like I said, on purpose. So I want to get back to football again. You and I are starting to get a little bit like Joe Sexton when he comes on and we start straying off into these different areas and forget about football. Impressive win the other night. Got you headed. You were already heading in the right direction. How do you guys build on that? And I'll let Maverick answer this because you're going to be back every week. How do you guys build off of that Lubbock Cooper game now, starting this week, then you have the open week before district?
What we take is don't take anything for granted. We play Midland High this weekend. They're going to be a good surround team. So playing Cooper was a really tough matchup, so it kind of helped shape our defense and give us more confidence as we go into the following weeks.
And with all due respect to the teams you played before them, and when you get into district, Coach and I talked about this, you're not going to play a whole lot of defenses better than Lubbock Cooper's, just scheme, want to, and all that. You heard what I said to Coach about those first 7 drives. What was clicking for you guys on the field so much that stuck out in your head?
Holden just being a great leader. Our O-line was doing a great job blocking and holding, controlling the offense, and our tempo just really helped us out that it'd be a busted play, Holden be scrambling, but he trusted our receivers enough to get open and get the ball to them efficiently.
I mentioned we were going to mention Holden. We better do that before I get in trouble with Mom. The thing I said to Coach is that you can tell that Holden's got a little bit more basketball background to him than Hud did or than Chad or Donovan, because you could almost see the point guard in him playing quarterback, if that makes sense. Since you're a basketball guy, soon he doesn't, if a play starts to, he doesn't panic, let's put it that way. He finds a way to find a little bit more space, and that's kind of what you were just talking about. He lets you guys do your work downfield and then finds a way to get you the ball.
Yeah, he's an all-around great leader, and I just feel like he has eyes everywhere. His IQ for the game is outstanding, and I just feel like he has eyes all over the field to find the right guy and throw it to.
And since it's National Daughters Day, Jamie Phillips, daughter of Pete Laney, pretty famous guy from Hale County as well. So Friendship goes on the road, Midland Christian, 7 p.m. Friday, Double T 97.3 FM. Then they have an open week. I don't like saying bye week or idle because I do know him well enough to know you guys aren't just going to kick your feet up and relax. So, and then they jump into district for 5 weeks, and that 5 weeks will put some hair on your chest, won't it, Maverick?
It will, yes, sir.